Good morning. Today I'm going to talk about a Torah called Tzav. Tzav means command. Mitzvah means commandment. Last week we saw Viagra, which is offering the sacrifices, meaning that we are drawing the attention closer to God. But Tzav means command. In Hebrew, there are two other words called dabur, which is speaking, and mer is saying. But God, spoke to them, God said to them. But the command, Tzav, T-Z-A-V, means it should be observed, it should be obeyed, it should be followed, it should be automatically, intertwined in our life system. So, the command and commandments are very important. These are the connections, or these are the connectors between us and God. Without these commandments, it is highly impossible for us to connect with God. Do we say that God don't talk to the people, those who are not following the commandments? Yes, God did talk to the Israeli people when they failed in their commandments, when they were not following the commandments. He condemned them. He put them in the punishment processes. But at the same time, commandments observance still exist. As modern day Christians, we may say we don't have to follow commandments. But I want to reinstate that one. We must follow commandments. Jesus followed all the commandments. And I wanted to tell you this one, that we are living in the intellectual world. Our wisdom is grown up much more in billion times square, whatever we can call, with the technological advancement and all the other advancements. Our knowledge has been exploded, unanimously, or ultimately, or we can say any other word. So, but think about this one. Our intellectual world has 4 or 5 variables, which are called thought processes, emotional processes, and the speech system, and the intellectual system, and also we have the action system. These are all the variables which our intellectual system compromises. But think about that. God's wisdom is billions and billions times more than what we are today. So how can we be in God's reality? Is it possible to be in God's reality? But still, God would love to be in His reality by speaking to us, by engaging us in His commandments, by following His commandments. By following His commandments, we can enter into His reality. We can communicate with them. We can set our life together. I will tell you one thing, we are in the network system. If we are, away from our network system, we cannot communicate properly. We must have the exact network system, exact carrier, so that we can communicate, correctly and exactly what we are expected to. What are the protocols that we are meeting into? So what I am saying is, we are picking up some of the hotspots or Wi-Fi's, and we get messages from those places, and we function according to those hotspots and Wi-Fi. But we cannot full and function, to all the levels of the communication system. Our communication levels would be limited if we are using the hotspot and Wi-Fi. We are all like that. We function according to what are the messages we hear from that. But there is one way to go through. That's the Jesus way. What Jesus said, and we need to follow. In 1991, I was in Saudi Arabia. I was in the time of Desert Storm, the Gulf War operations. America bombed Iraq. When they bombed, what they did was, the first thing what they did was, they put a bomb which neutralized, or which nullified, or which deactivated the radio waves of their commanding system. So the commanders from the city couldn't able to communicate with the frontline soldiers, who were sitting in the in the borders of the desert. So that's why they broke the commandments or communication between the soldiers and the commanders, and America could easily win the war within 3 days. That's how Satan also operates us. He doesn't want us to, communicate with God. He doesn't want us to be in life with God. Only through commandments and commands that we communicate with God. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to follow and to communicate and to live our life. In the Old Testament, there's a story about Shaul. King Shaul was about to, or he was supposed to, eradicate all the Amalekites. He didn't. He didn't listen. He didn't listen God's word. He didn't obey God's command. He, saved the king Hagag and some of other, his properties. So what happened in later days? The same Hagagite became one of the descendants from Hagag, Haman the Hagagite, who was the whole soul responsible for the Purim festival today that the Jewish people are celebrating. And the Mordecai was the descendant of Shaul. So what I'm saying, the sin can grow if you leave that. If you don't listen and disobey, you don't obey the command or commandments, it can grow into generations after generation. It can bring big devastating situations. Commandments are very important. Tzav, T-Z-A-V, impresses that we need to follow, we must obey the commandments. Please go ahead and search yourself. You must say, you will be thinking, brother, what is this you are talking about? That means God is not going to save anyone else except Jewish people? I don't know what was the God's plan on the final days. I do know that Revelation speaks about that 144,000 of young virgin Jewish community will be preaching the final gospel. What I'm saying, I'm just giving you in advance what I read, what I learned from this one. There are certain things that we definitely must follow. Jesus was the Jewish guy, more than a Jewish guy. He followed everything. If you think that Jesus eradicated everything, of course he did one thing, that he became as a sacrificial lamb. He offered himself to be a sacrificial lamb for both the communities. That's for sure. But he was a total observer of the Jewish system. He rushed to the Jerusalem temple, even at the last day, even the season of this Holy Week, he was rushing to Jerusalem temple to celebrate the Pascha festival. You know what? The Pentecostal day, or Pentecostal, was first given to Jewish people. They were the first celebration people of the Pentecostals. The day of Pentecost has been celebrated still in Jewish community. How come our Pentecostals are not celebrating the day of Pentecost? I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm very much analytical. I love everybody. I love all the brothers and sisters. But the point is that I'm more analytically critical. That's the point. So don't misunderstand me. Go ahead and research the Bible about that one. Jesus was 1,000 and 2,000% of Jewish person. So we need to follow the commandments. There are about 613 commandments are there. Not only 10 commandments. Most of us even do not know the 10 commandments in an order. So, in order to set our life, in order to communicate our life, in order to be in the network system in our life, in order to be a commander or a soldier in the God's army, follow the commandments. Tzav is the command. I'll come back with you another Torah. Until next time, have a blessed week and a blessed day. Bye.